but I love it when we get a slice through. It really is extremely satisfying to kill 2 enemies with 1 blow. Is really, really cool. Take out that guy. Yeah, there we go. That's what we like to see. Hello and welcome back to our Sturgian Viking. Now, when we left off, we were attempting to try and hunt down as many vassals as we could get our hands on. Now, there is a vassal here leading a very, very sizable army, considering this is, I believe this is, isn't this the Western? Yes, it is. Okay, now this is actually kind of insane. I would not have expected there to be such a large army so prevalent, I guess, or so prominent. I think that's more of an accurate description for it. But anyway, so prominent inside a faction that literally has, I don't even think I know how much combat strength they have, but they have very little. So it is extremely impressive for them to do something like that. I can't believe it, to be honest. Anyway, we're trying to move our forces into the tree line here. As far as I'm aware, according to their composition, they do have a lot of recruits. So it is going to be one of those times where I don't think we're going to have too many difficulties. However, I do have more cavalry. Yes, I actually do have more cavalry. I decided to check out some of my further afield garrisons. And indeed, I have been able to find a couple extra. And that means that we've expanded our tactical options somewhat. Because obviously, if we just have infantry, we're very limited in what we can do. But the enemy is now going to, yes, look at that. They're actually pretty smart. I feel like the AI sometimes is pretty smart, sometimes not so smart. But in this case, they are definitely showing themselves to be pretty cool, because they're doing that really nice little circular formation. I very much appreciate that, because in general the circular formation looks really cool. It feels to me like it's a very stylish thing to do. Gonna get my archers to come over here. I don't really have archers, they're just skirmishers, and generally they're not going to do that much. And well, we'll see what happens when we start moving our infantry closer to the circle. I don't really want to send my cavalry in from this point. I'd like to break up the circle if I can. Yeah, there we go. Alright, let's tell everyone to charge in. Oh yeah, this is perfect. Absolutely perfect. Look at this. This is a wonderful, wonderful situation to be in. This is exactly the reason why I wanted to get cavalry as well, because the amount of breakage that happened right there was mind-boggling. They just had no idea what they could do. They could just not do anything. I am being really terrible on horseback as well, by the way. Mainly because one-handed weapons, in my opinion at least, are very difficult to use on horseback in Bannerlord. They are much, much easier to use in Warband, but maybe that's just because I was more used to them. And I did have a bit of success with one-handed weapons in a previous episode. So maybe it's all to do with your timing and things like that. I mean, obviously it's to do with your timing. That's the whole name of the game when it comes to combat in Mount and Blade. You know, timing. Timing it all comes down to. But yeah, personally I prefer the two-handed because it just has so much more reach and everything. Although the one-handed, as one of you rightly mentioned, by the way, the one-handed does have significantly more defensive capabilities. So if you're going to get shot, or if you expect that you're going to get shot, then it definitely is a much better idea to use a one-handed, because you're just going to very quickly be able to adapt to pretty much any kind of situation. And if it's indeed threatening your life, then obviously that makes more sense than running around with the two-handed. However, we do have a lot of units in the form of cavalry here that are using two-handed polearms, and Cassanon has died in battle. Is that one of the... Yes, I believe that is one of the enemy, because it's just me by myself, as you can see right there. It's just me by myself with some high-tier units, and that's it. Alright, well, we're going to be taking all of them prisoner, and we're going to be executing them all. Oh yes, we are certainly going to be doing that. There we are. Nice. You know, that sound, right? The sound of the axe falling, and it just goes, you know, it's just a very satisfying sound. They've done a good job on the sound design there. Really makes a huge difference to maybe wanting to do it more. I'm not entirely sure, but I think they've done a great job on that. Anyway, let's take a look at our skills here. We actually do have a trait in riding. Increases your maneuver by 10%. Mounted troops in your formation gain plus 30 riding skill. Increases your charge damage by 20%. Mounted troops gain 10% charge damage. Right. I don't really care too much about charge damage, so I'm actually going to go for... Actually, charge damage is going to be okay, but 20% is just not enough, in my opinion at least, to really make that trait worth it. If it was 50% or even 75%, I would say that that would be much better, because as it stands right now, you've seen how much charge damage I've been able to do in the past. It has been extremely low. So basically, I'll get like what, 3-4 damage from a charge? And 20% of that is just not going to be that significant, unfortunately. So I'm going to take the maneuver because maneuver is generally going to be better, and it does give me 10%, which I suppose is okay. Not that big a fan of it, but I think that's fine. And what else do we actually have here? Because I haven't even looked at the new perks that riding has. Increases your mount hit points when your mount falls in battle. It has 50% chance of getting lame instead of 100%. Oh, okay, well that's good to know. Increase mounted infantry campaign speed. Oh, now that is something I desperately want to get. Yeah, that is actually really, really good. All right, well, we're going to be increasing our focus on the riding skill. Obviously, riding skill is pretty hard for us to level up at the moment for some reason, but yeah, we're going to try and level it up a little bit quicker, and I will be going for one more point in vigor, as I would like to try and level up my one-handed / two-handed just that little bit quicker. And we're going to be attempting to take Hertogia Castle. Ah, now what do we have here? Oh yes, we have another army of the Western Empire, and we're going to be attempting to eliminate them. Now, of course, do bear in mind that obviously the combat strength is significantly in our favor. That is probably only due to the fact that I do have a couple of extra vassals, because otherwise it would be much closer to the middle. Unfortunately, I do believe these guys don't have anything too significant, and I'm talking about obviously high-tier units. I mean, the Western Empire has been limping along for a lot of time, and of course, most other factions that are doing a little bit better are going to have much better... Oh, wow, that hurt. Yes, they're going to have much better army compositions. Oh, nice damage right there. Unfortunately, not a kill. Not a kill. Most enemies have about 100 to 110 HP, so if we can do some damage like that, then that would be very nice indeed. I have no idea where my forces are, so I'm just going to be telling my infantry to charge in, because I believe, yes, we are indeed to the side of the opponent. And I'm hopefully going to get my cavalry to come in from the side here. Unfortunately, we are fighting in the village, so it makes things a little bit more uncomfortable than it otherwise should be on an open field. But I'm going to try and get around here just a little bit. I'm a bit dubious also about using my two-handed here, because a lot of the enemies are archers. So anytime that we're up against archers, especially if they spawn in almost immediately on top of us, this is going to be a very bad situation to be in, as you can no doubt tell. Oh yes, I'm taking quite a lot of damage from those arrows. Oh, we murdered Tadios. Very nice indeed. That was a cool hit right there. I'm actually wondering whether he's going to be eliminated now, you know, because there have been reports from a number of you, and maybe from some of our battles as well, where we've seen vassals be eliminated by pretty significant overkill damage, and then as a result it has caused a death to occur. So if that indeed happens here, then we'll have much more information in that regard, which would be pretty cool. I obviously don't know how much I overkilled him by, though. That's the thing. I don't know whether he was injured at all or anything like that. Yes, usually that's going to happen with a couch lance. Yeah, never mind. Okay, alright. Doesn't happen. Yeah. Oh well, that's fine. Not a problem whatsoever, because we're going to be taking them prisoner nevertheless, and as you know, that means we're going to be murdering all of them. Yes, very nice indeed. So let's do that. Another clan was eliminated. Very nice. And maybe we can get some more clans eliminated as well. No, okay. Apparently the Western Empire is still doing perfectly fine in terms of their clan health, which is not exactly great. But anyway, yes, a little bit of a development occurred while we were in off-screen time. The Battanians made peace. Yeah, I tried to stop it. I did. I tried to stop it. I voted against with 100 relation. I had someone on my side, but unfortunately it was not enough. Every single person wanted peace, which I gotta say was quite frustrating because I was in a situation where I'd easily be able to take Hotogia Castle, and I was just about to start dealing some damage to their walls. But I guess we've moved on to greener pastures because it means that we are now going to potentially be able to take a town from the Vlandians. Ooh, almost completely flawlessly built 4 trebuchets without taking any damage whatsoever, and that is indeed the reason why it is usually a good idea never to build catapults as a defensive measure, because these catapults are pretty much the same kind of accuracy. I obviously don't know how true that is because I have never seen any kind of stat sheet for siege equipment or anything like that. I don't even know whether there's anything available like that, but the point is trebuchets and catapults do seem to share a relatively similar accuracy rating, and as a result they do tend to be pretty ineffective as defensive measures. If these particular people in Sargot here would have built ballistas instead, then I think I probably would have almost certainly lost the first wave of siege engines. And no doubt, yeah, as you can see right here, I actually did call for a number of extra vassals because the very large army that Semir had disbanded nearby, and they were only about a day's travel away. So I decided, hey, you know what, we're just going to get a whole bunch of people, make this into a much easier situation for us, and also get our engineering skill to have a little boost. Alright, so here we are, we're in the siege, and yeah, I'm for some reason I'm seeing some weird behavior from my troops in the initial starting points of this siege, because I initially thought to myself, okay, well, considering the walls are down, basically the only thing I want to do is charge my units in, right? That's pretty much all I want to do. I just want to charge them in so that they can be as aggressive as possible, and that's exactly what we need. We need them to clear out the enemy units extremely quickly without too much bother. Now, unfortunately, when I did that, they pretty much decided that they would just stand there. Yeah. I have no idea why that happened, but they did. Ah, get him. Ah, no. I really thought I'd be able to get him there. Oh, well, never mind. But yes, as I say, so when I gave them the charge order, they turned around, amusingly enough, and just watched 2 of their brethren run in the opposite direction. I have no idea why that was even a thing, but apparently they just wanted to do that. Oh, I can't believe I took no damage. What? I really can't believe that. Oh, okay. Well, that's kind of interesting. Okay, so oh yeah, there we go. I took damage from this, landing on a soft hay roof. Okay. Well, that's okay. Yeah, sure. Yeah, that's some other kind of realism there, I guess. Anyway, we are going to murder. We're going to murder everything that I possibly can. Thank you. And get my 2-handed weapon proficiency leveled up. And we're probably going to get murdered. As you can see, yes, almost being murdered here. Okay, so I'm actually going to tell these guys to charge in now. Does it work? Okay, so now it works. Okay, so probably a good idea not to do the charge command when you're outside, because it seems like it kind of glitches the AI out a little bit. I'm not entirely sure why that is. Maybe they see or sense an enemy on the outside that they can't get to. Maybe that's it. I'm not entirely sure. But as I say, they just basically stood there until I told them to auto-delegate once again. So auto-delegation, at least in some maps, is probably going to be required, at least until your forces get inside the walls. So I just thought I'd let you know about that, just in case you're also experiencing something like that, and maybe, you know, maybe you're just like, what's going on here, you know? So at least now you know that it's not too big a deal to fix, and you just need to tell them to auto-delegate once again. But there you go, that is indeed a victory for us. Daria, the spice vendor, who used to be one of our caravan people, is actually doing very nicely. She has 35 Huskarls. I gave her 35, and then I gave her a bunch of other random units. I mean, technically, now here's the thing, technically I don't even have that many of these guys, right? It may seem like I have an unlimited supply of them, but that is not actually true, because I have, I think, another 50 in one of my other garrisons, and then I think I have another 30 in another garrison, but that's basically it. So after that, I'm going to have to start either leveling up some of the other forces that I have in the garrisons that are nearby to those ones, or indeed in those, because the Sturgian garrisons do tend to have more Sturgian units. That is to be expected, of course. And the same thing with the Imperials, and the same thing with the Britannians, and so on and so forth. That's how it works, because from my experience, these vassals that are obviously with you, they determine what kind of units you're going to get initially when you've first taken that particular fief. So you can only cross your fingers and hope that that is going to be some really, really good stuff. And sometimes you're going to get really bad stuff. Like, for example, in Sionen at the moment, I have pretty awful units. In the garrison there, they are really, really bad. And I'm actually kind of surprised that it has not been besieged yet, just purely due to the troop quality. But I know that the AI doesn't really look at troop quality most of the time anyway. So it's not really that big a deal, at least for me right now. Anyway, so there you go. We actually just took that, and as you can see, the Vlandians literally do not have any way of defending against us, so it is pretty much a formality at this point. However, I could make a mistake. There are many different kinds of mistakes I could make in the siege, and in general, becoming overconfident is going to be the main killer in this aspect. But there you go. We can now vote for the new owner. Technically, I could take it for myself, but Yorig is getting a lot of support, so I might as well just gain a bunch of relation with him. And there you go. Yeah, by the way, the, what is it now? The tribute, that's it. Yes, the tribute with the Britannians is significantly low. I'm not entirely sure why that is. It's probably because there are not that many vassals, right? It's probably that. And that actually is making quite a bit of sense. A lot of the economy and simulation aspect in Bannerlord doesn't make too much sense unless you're like a trading character or whatever, and generally the interactions with the AI and the economy usually are a bit wonky. But obviously, again, it's early access. They're going to be working on this, polishing it, and making sure that all that stuff is much more balanced in the future. Like, for example, we saw in a previous episode where I basically tried to bankrupt one of the enemy vassals by selling him a couple of swords and then taking his money. And now, then he took... Oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Who is this? Ah, that's Peric. Okay, I don't need to worry about him. That's not me. That is literally his... that is his purpose, isn't it? To literally faction hop. But anyway, as I was saying, I tried to bankrupt a vassal, and he then went to a nearby town, which was also bankrupt, by the way. And he sold those swords for literally like 1 million gold or something like that. And I know that there is a trade penalty when dealing with vassals' inventories and your own items. So if you did want to, you know, utilize your loot, because I know some people in the recent past have been mentioning to me that maybe what I should do is when I want to try and persuade some people, I should utilize the huge amount of loot that I have in my inventory. And yes, I would definitely say that that is a cool idea. Unfortunately, because of the trade penalty and the depreciation that most of the loot does indeed tend to get in those situations, it's going to be resulting in much less value that each of these items gets in comparison to if I were to go to a marketplace and actually sell it. So that's obviously a bit of a problem. But if we are indeed close, in a persuasion attempt, then maybe it would be a good idea, because then it's going to push over that guy. It's going to basically be like, hey, you know, you're at 98%. How about some tunics? You know, do you want some tunics? And then he's going to be like, yes, I would love some tunics, and so on. You know, so that's generally going to be, I suppose, the way that we'll probably roll with it, because at the moment it probably won't work out too well with the trade penalty, as I've said, but. Yeah, as I say, I feel like the economy could definitely use a little bit of refining, but the economy, on the other hand, when it comes to actually trading and leveling up trade and so on and so forth, that actually works really nicely. So I'm pretty happy with that. You know, I've had a lot of fun with trading characters in the past. We're going to be giving this to Vipon. I'm a little bit dubious about giving it to him, to be honest, but he has stayed with us for... how long now? I'm actually not sure how he stayed with us so long, but he's been with us for a while, and so I can only hope that he's going to stick with us for a little bit longer. Yeah, you know what? It seems like a good mixture of onagers and trebuchets do seem to make a pretty big difference to how effective your attacks against ballistas will be. So usually what I'll do is I'll just go for trebuchets, right? Because usually it takes a long time for ballistas to actually deal any damage to them. As you can see, this one in particular is absorbing huge amounts of damage at the moment, and well, that's what you want them to do, obviously. You want them to be able to survive for as long as possible. And, you know, on the other hand, onagers have literally less than half of their HP. Trebuchets have 3,200 and fire onagers have 1,500. So in general, if you want a piece of siege equipment that lasts a huge amount of time, then trebuchets are definitely the way to go. However, they do have a very slow rate of fire, and their accuracy rating is leaving a lot to be desired some of the time. However, if you intersperse a little bit of your trebuchets with an onager, or maybe even two onagers, then I think maybe that will be resulting in a slightly better experience, because even though the trebuchets have much more HP, their slow rate of fire is a little bit of a bone of contention there, because generally what I would like to see is the onager be shielded behind the trebuchets. So for example, the enemy ballistas will hopefully target the trebuchets while the onager goes to work without actually taking any damage. At least that is the hope in that particular situation, because obviously if the onager gets targeted first, then that's going to be pretty bad. So it really depends on, it's a bit of luck. It's a bit of luck in that regard. Let's try and kill this guy. Wow, how's he taking only 21 damage? Are you serious? He's only taking 21 damage? Oh well, never mind. But yeah, I'm still kind of trying to work out the best way of eliminating the ballista-centric defense, because anytime there's a ballistic-centric defense, I'm always like, oh, okay, how am I going to do this? It's going to take me a long time to be able to do that, and they're going to eat through my food really, really fast as well. Anytime that happens, I'm like, oh, okay, well, probably going to have to go to a village after this, or go to a town or something like that with a huge amount of food in it, and try to restock my supplies, because it does take its toll eventually, you know, even though it might not immediately, it is going to take its toll eventually. Okay, I'm going to have to be a bit careful here. Big two-handed axes coming out of the reinforcement area. Oh, that was nice. I love it when we actually do get a slice through. It doesn't happen every time, but I love it when we get a slice through. It really is extremely satisfying. To kill two enemies with one blow is really, really cool. Take out that guy. Yeah, there we go. That's what we like to see. Ah, get him. There we go. Get him, get him. These guys are moving really fast, actually, by the way. What? Did you see that? That was terrible. Don't look at that. Don't look at that. That was awful. Yeah, I was like, okay, if I do wide sweeping attacks, then I might indeed be able to hit more units. Well, that didn't really work out in my favor, did it? I feel like, you know what? I feel like the developers might have actually changed the values of not tactics. I saw tactics level up and I was like, oh yes, tactics. No. I feel like they might have actually changed the values of athletics, because it feels to me like when you have my value right here, when you're above maybe about 115 or so, you seem to be moving really fast. And it didn't used to be like that. I mean, I remember back in the Bannerlord series, we had 180 athletics, I think. Yeah, we had 180, or we had even more than that, actually. And we were moving at, well, a pretty significant speed, of course, but I think about the same as this, which is actually quite strange, considering I wouldn't have expected that. But there we go. We actually leveled up quite a bit of our athletics in this particular siege, which I very much appreciate. And there you go. We're actually done. Fantastic. So yeah, that's pretty amazing, actually. I feel like they've done a good job if that is indeed the case, because that means that athletics really makes more of an impact on your experience in the battle than it would otherwise, because in the past it's really been not very good. Let's just say that. Riding skill is also similar in that aspect, because whenever I've created a riding unit in the past, I'm mostly looking at the Khuzait Khanate series here, the riding skill is extremely difficult to level up. So it's really nice to see that they've increased the bonus that you get from that, if that has indeed happened. Obviously, I haven't looked at the change logs or anything like that. But anyway, we're going to be allowing our forces to just go and do whatever they want, and this is what the map now looks like. Akbar Castle is indeed being under siege, but this is perfect. This is exactly the reason why, by the way, I did do the trade in the previous episode for this castle among two others, because it provides so much of a distraction for the Aserai, and it allows the Sturgians to basically do whatever they want to do, and if they want to attack the Aserai, then of course they can do that. Anyway, that will be it for this episode. If you enjoyed the video, then please leave a like. It is greatly appreciated, and well, I thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.